Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. I've been talking here about what I think was Barack Obama's dismal performance yesterday at the UN, paying lip service to the Constitution, but throwing it under the bus because he says the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. In other words, our own president saying, you have no place in our future, no place in the global future, if you are critical of Muhammad. Well, he just provided no place in America's future for Christians. We just got eliminated. We just got removed from the map. We just got removed from culture. President Obama says the future must not belong to us. And he apparently is going to do whatever is in his power to make sure that Christians have no place in the future world that he envisions because we are critical of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people don't understand the significance of this, and I still cannot get over this, where Barack Obama is talking to Steve Kroft of 60 Minutes, and he explains why the world is in flames, and nobody seems to have picked up on this except for me. So that's why I'm playing this soundbite again. Listen carefully, and you see what Barack Obama, in an unguarded moment, where he places the blame for the fact that the Middle East is burning up. Let's listen.
Have recent events in the Middle East given you any pause about your support for the governments that have come to power following the Arab Spring?
Well, I said even at the time that this is going to be a rocky path. The question presumes that somehow we could have stopped this wave of change. I think it was absolutely the right thing for us to do, to align ourselves with democracy, universal rights, a notion that people have to be able to participate in their own governance. But I was pretty certain, and continue to be pretty certain, that there are going to be bumps in the road because in a lot of these places, the one organizing principle has been Islam, the one part of society that hasn't been controlled completely by the government.
Now, Rob, I want to have us play that again because I still cannot get over this, and nobody's picked up on this. This may be the only place you're even hearing this sound. And this is on 60 Minutes. This is one of the most watched news shows, one of the most watched shows in network television, and nobody has picked up on this. Barack Obama is saying here the reason that we're having problems in the Middle East is because the organizing principle there is Islam, and we can't control it. Nobody can keep Islam under control. It's outside the control of government, and that's what's creating all of these problems. This is Barack Obama, and I want to play it for you again so you can listen to it, hear him say it in his own words. He says, I am certain that there are going to be bumps in the road because the one organizing principle has been Islam. He says that's why it's going to be tough. That's why it's going to be difficult. Everybody got hung up on the bumps in the road statement, and that's a terrible statement. I mean, the bumps in the road, President Obama, were the bumps that were provided by the bodies of Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 of his bodyguards. Those are the bumps in the road. Those are people, not things, not bumps in the road. They're people. So everybody was upset about that, and understandably. It was a very callous and different thing for the president to say. But what everybody missed is he's saying, look, the reason that we're having all these problems trying to pacify the Middle East is because the one organizing principle has been Islam. This is kind of an amazing. I mean, again, when you catch these people when they're not looking, when they're not aware, and they accidentally speak what's on their heart, they will tell you the truth. It's like Channel 4, BBC, or UK had Krishnan Guru Murthy here in studio with me on Monday, talking about the fact that they aired a documentary on their television network, Channel 4, Unreported World, that questioned the origins of Islam. They aired it on their network 2 weeks ago. They got then they decided they were going to schedule a private showing at their headquarters. They got 1,000 complaints about the documentary that they aired. And so they canceled the private showing for security reasons. So what's that tell you? That tells you they know that Islam is not a religion of peace. They're admitting it. They won't tell you they're admitting it. They won't tell you that's what they're saying. But what else does it mean that we've got security concerns about showing this documentary. We're afraid if we show this documentary that raises questions about Islam, we're going to have our place blown up. Because after all, the president of America, the president of the United States, said the future must not belong to those who slander the prophet of Islam. So we better listen to what President Barack Obama says, and we better not slander the prophet of Islam, or we might get blown up, and Barack Obama would say, well, that is your own fault, because the future must not belong to people like you. So let's listen to Barack Obama one more time, and listen to this carefully. I want you to hear it in his own words, explaining why we cannot have peace in the Middle East.
Have recent events in the Middle East given you any pause about your support for the governments that have come to power following the Arab Spring?
Well, I said even at the time that this is going to be a rocky path. The question presumes that somehow we could have stopped this wave of change. I think it was absolutely the right thing for us to do, to align ourselves with democracy, universal rights, a notion that people have to be able to participate in their own governance. But I was pretty certain, and continue to be pretty certain, that there are going to be bumps in the road, because in a lot of these places, the one organizing principle has been Islam, the one part of society that hasn't been controlled completely by the government.
All right, so that's why we got bumps in the road. That's President Obama. I don't even think he realized what he was saying. Reason we got bumps in the road, reason we got dead bodies in the streets of Benghazi, our own people, is because the organizing principle is Islam. And by the way, you know who we were relying on for security at the Benghazi consulate? We were relying, if you can believe it, on the Muslim Brotherhood. Can you believe that? This is a story from Front Page Magazine, September 21, by Daniel Greenfield. 2 U.S. intelligence officials told the Daily Beast that the intelligence community is currently analyzing an intercept between a Libyan politician whose sympathies are with al-Qaeda and the Libyan militia known as the February 17 Brigade, which had been charged with providing local security to the consulate. In the intercept, the Libyan politician apparently asks an officer in the brigade, listen to this, asks an officer in the brigade to have his men stand down for a pending attack, another piece of evidence implying the violence was planned in advance. So no wonder these guys had access to the consulate. We were counting on the Muslim Brotherhood to provide security. The Libyan official says, look, would you guys just kind of stand aside? We got this attack coming. It's going to be launched on the consulate. We're going to kill some people. We're going to torch the place. Would you guys just kind of step aside and let it happen? Kind of the Matador defense, just step aside, wave the red flag, and let them on through. And apparently that's exactly what happened. I mean, putting the Muslim Brotherhood in charge of protecting U.S. security anywhere in the world, I mean, that is lunacy. That is people who are dangerously naive about the reality of Islam. And to give you an example of what I'm talking about when I talk about the reality of Islam, here is a senior jihadi writer, Muhib Ruyat al-Rahman. He's a senior writer at a jihadi forum. And he suggested on September 18, that's a week ago, that Muslims living in Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, and the U.S. should slaughter people and display their decapitated heads along roads with a statement reading, quote, "This is the punishment of those who insult our prophet." Well, who is it that's out there at the UN saying the future must not belong to those who slander the prophet? That's our own president. That's the same thing this guy's saying. And he's saying, you insult the prophet. I mean, even your own president said the future must not belong to you. You've got no place in the future of the world. You have no place in the future of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, our own president said that. The future must not belong to those who slander the prophet. Do you realize the enormity of what he said? The future must not belong to those who slander the prophet. This is what this guy wants. This is what Muslims want done with people that insult the prophet or slander the prophet. Same deal. Want their decapitated heads put on poles alongside the roads in the United States. And here is a sermon from last Friday in Libya, as preached in Benghazi. This is where the attack took place by one of the leading preachers, one of the leading imams in Benghazi. Indeed, O Muslims, the time has come for us to adopt a firm stance and to detonate our wrath upon them with deeds they will not be able to ignore. Let us stab them in their main artery. O Allah, destroy the rancorous Christians. O Allah, destroy the rancorous Christians and the corrupting Jews. O Allah, destroy them, for they cannot withstand you. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the religion of peace. Now, I want to shift gears just a little bit, staying kind of on the same thing, but let's grab clip 7. You know, Barack Obama's already back in D.C., did not meet with any international leaders, had time for The View, time to sit down and chat with Whoopi, didn't have time to meet with Bibi Netanyahu or any of the other leaders in the world, and even the mainstream media starting to have problems with this. Here's Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, thinking that Obama made a mistake. Let's listen.
And I think he really did make it worse by sitting down with The View. I love The View. I love the show. They're all, friends. I'm a big fan. But this was not the moment to sit down with The View. That's done by Mitt Romney, by Barack Obama, by everyone else. They do these kinds of interviews, but not this day and at this time.
That's Andrea Mitchell, mainstream media. Here's Jake Tapper, clip 8, ABC News, finds this inexplicable. Let's listen.
But it is true that last year when President Obama was here for the UN General Assembly, he had at least a dozen meetings with world leaders. And having covered President Obama since he took office, this is an anomaly, this idea that he would come here and not have meetings with world leaders. There really isn't a full explanation that's been forthcoming other than the president has a busy schedule.
So no explanation for it. Let's play CNN's John King, clip 9. He has a question about it, too.
But a lot of people, it's not just the Republicans, a lot of people in the foreign policy community, even Democrats, quietly wondering if the president's making a mistake by not having the bilateral meetings at the UN General Assembly.
So even he says it's a mistake. Let's grab Wolf Blitzer. Run it. Go.
If he wants to do a television interview, The View or Kelly Ripa, or if he wants to come on my show, I'd be happy to have him on my show. I do think that there potentially is a missed opportunity this week for the President of the United States to meet with some world leaders, but he's made the decision. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will meet with those world leaders, not him.
Wow, that's amazing. You got 4 mainstream media poobahs, Andrea Mitchell, Jake Tapper, ABC, John King, CNN, Wolf Blitzer. This was a mistake for Obama not to meet with world leaders. Focal Point AFR Talk. Back in